just to pay homage to him.
We have always been the prize because we have always had and still have something that other people won't, think they can't do without, and don't care to pay for. Because we have always been the prize, we have been under siege for over 3,000 years. Nothing that ever brought into Africa from the outside was meant to do the African any good.
She made me to know my history, to know my roots. So I grew up with a love for myself and secure within myself, never feeling inferior and certainly not feeling superior, but that chip on the shoulder that the young lady spoke about is my self-assurance, my confidence, my ability to speak the truth without fear. I don't bend when I don't have to. I don't scratch where I don't itch. I look white people in the eye and speak honestly and truthfully and candidly and unhypocritically to you. That's not a chip. That's just self-assurance that comes from self-knowledge. Teach your children that, and whether we are here or there, we'll be able to make a future for ourselves.
Who are you? You don't know. Don't tell me Negro, that's nothing. What were you before the white man named you a Negro? And where were you? And what did you have? What was yours? What language did you speak then? What was your name? It couldn't have been Smith or Jones or Bunch or Powell. That wasn't your name. They don't have those kind of names where you and I came from. No, what was your name? And why don't you now know what your name was then? Where did it go? Where did you lose it? Who took it? And how did he take it? What tongue did you speak? How did the man take your tongue? Where is your history? How did the man wipe out your history? What did the man do to make you as dumb as you are right now?
In fact, recently, some lot of garbage is written in books by people who call themselves historians, making it appear as if we have to thank Lyndon Baines Johnson for the advancement because he signed the Civil Rights Bill. Of course he signed it, but while he was signing it, we were in the streets burning the country down. You better hurry up and sign it. Burn the whole country down and do it quick. But if you're not careful, you will thank Lyndon Baines Johnson.
I say now, give us that poetry on number 7. He wanted to go to heaven, so I took him in 7. You took him in 7. I am the king of the world. Hold it. I'm pretty. Hold it, you're not that pretty. I'm a bad man. Wait. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
So we always say the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Melanated Power Hour. I'm your host, Sam Polk Jr. So honored, so thankful, so blessed to have you back with us one more time as we discuss issues pertinent to the African diaspora. And once again, for those who are new to the show, the African diaspora is anywhere that black people may be, whether it be Jackson, Mississippi, Nashville, Tennessee, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Barbados, you name it. We recognize those places as our homes away from home, but we also recognize the fact that we are indeed African and the continent of Africa is our home indeed. I am joined again by the man, the myth, the legend, the funniest man I know, comedian Just Will. What say you, my brother?
Oh my goodness, bro. You know I'm still riding the high, man.
Absolutely.
I'm still riding the high. I'm still riding the wave, man.
Absolutely. Before we get into it, because we got to talk about the game, because you got to play the game. I think I said that you got to play the game. But anyway, hold on. Woo! I want to say something real quick before we get started. I had the pleasure and the honor to be asked to participate in a panel discussion this Friday. And you know, sometimes how you get an invite to do something and with the people, other people who were invited, you feel like you shouldn't be there. Like they're gonna discover that I shouldn't be here. You know what I'm saying? That's how I felt being a part of this august body that was on this panel. First, I'd like to say, brother Kofi Paisan, who is also a native Mississippian. He has a Kofi Paisan TV on YouTube. Go check it out. It's excellent work. Information on Africa, the African diaspora, and so forth. He's the author of many books, and he just wrote a new book entitled Mandingo Theory, Castration of African and Sex Crazed Conceptualization. That's a powerful book that goes into a lot of the things that we have talked about, and it's kind of a hard subject matter, but it'll get you to understand why you look at yourself in a certain way and why you view in such a way by other people. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And a lot of it is to no fault of your own. But he invited me to participate on this panel. It was a panel discussion discussing the importance of writing, and everybody that was on the panel's particular process for writing. And there were many people on there, brothers and sisters, who I watched their social media presence, throughout the conscious community. Brothers like Asar Imhotep, Black Panther, Sutek, Wu Jai, so many others, Sean P., and of course Brother Kofi himself. But it was just a big honor to be on that. Go to his channel on YouTube, Kofi Paisan TV, and check it out, and as well as his other works. And please support his books, and this is just one of many that he's written, and everybody else that's on that list. Hit pause, look at those brothers and sisters, and go try to support their work. And if at all possible, something I learned from Brother Kofi, before you go to Amazon, see if you're wanting to purchase one of their works, see if you can get it directly from them. That way they get 100% of the proceeds, and they don't have to split it with you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How it works. But go do that and proceed, my brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. Congratulations on that too, man. I had to go back and check it out, and that's the link down at the bottom, right? Yeah, that's that. And be sure to post that in the thread down there so people can just click on it. So because a lot of people they trying to listen to the show, they don't want to have time to go down there and read it, but just post the link so they can just click on it and everything. But man, Sam. Hey man, all I can say is, first of all, man, let me just bring it up, because I remember when we first saw this, man. Let me take you all the way back to 1998.
Okay.
When I found out that we were supposed to be playing TSU, and they took them off the schedule. They took us off the schedule because
we gave them a scare the previous.
Well, yeah, we gave them a scare, and they thought that it would be a better situation for them if they went up to Eastern Illinois and play against Tony Romo, because that's who the quarterback was at that time, who eventually went on to be the Dallas Cowboys cornerback and all that. But yeah, I was really excited because I was like, man, I get to go home and play against a team that I really, because I have some personal issues with TSU. I do. True enough, it's still a black university, and I will promote them and all that good stuff. But when it comes to football, I don't like TSU. Strictly football, nothing about the university or anything of that nature. And they took us off the schedule. Let's fast forward to this past Saturday. And I've carried this for years, Sam. And I told you on last Wednesday, man. I told you, man, I want Lane to beat TSU so bad. I want them to. It would do nothing but just bring joy to my heart. And all we ever heard was, well, TSU is D1 school, Lane's Division II,
which is true.
It's true. And on paper, Lane is not supposed to beat TSU.
Right.
It's just not supposed to happen.
No, it's not.
With the recruits they bring in, with the type of money they have, what they can do, the facility, it's not supposed to happen.
Right. And not to jump in front of you, but like I told you last week, as a avid watcher, as a person who writes about black college football, using logic and reason, I wasn't going to jump off a cliff like a fan. I said, on paper, it looks one way. in person it looked one way.
Oh yeah.
One side looked like Goliath, and one side looked like David.
Right.
But you have to do what?
You have to play the game.
You have to play the game. And this ain't pro football any given Sunday, but any given Saturday, you can be had from a number of factors. Missing players due to injury, lack of motivation. It's a lot of things, you know what I'm saying? I will tell you one thing, going into the game with a lot of Lane alumni, there was a lot of ish talking being thrown at us. And it kind of reminded me, number one, great atmosphere. They need to bring all the games back to the whole. That's just first and foremost.
Right.
11,000 people up in there look different than 11,000 people at Titan Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me kind of feel like you were playing again because you remember how hostile and how rude fans used to be towards you. And it's supposed to be that way, right?
Right.
They fans was anybody that had on some Lane stuff, or man, they was letting us have it, man, walking up in there, you know, trying to, on paper, you know, a fan, you know, going by what it's supposed to happen, letting us have it. And one of our former teammates said something to me that made perfect sense, and it made me think I don't know why, but after he said it, I was like, hey, I didn't say it to nobody, but I was like, hey, we finna win this game. So we all walking in, and Tennessee State fan letting us have it. Y'all are high school, and we finna stomp you, and you don't belong out here.
Lame. They weren't even calling us Lane. They was calling us Lane.
Yeah, and then out of nowhere, I hear Keith Lane say, you motherfuckers ain't won a game all year. You about to get beat today, too. And I was like, and they kind of got quiet. And I was like, ooh. I was like, hey. I said, yeah. They ain't won the game all year. I don't care who they played. You haven't won. And that just made perfect sense with me, man.
For anybody who don't know Keith Lane is my brother from another mother, man. This brother looked out for me as soon as I got to Lane College, man. And to this day, if I ever need him, all I had to do was call him. Mm-hmm. And he don't care where he at. He go stand on his own too and say what he got to say. And for him to say that's nothing but Keith Lane. Mm-hmm. And he's the younger brother of the late, great Fred Lane.
Absolutely. But as the game started to unfold, you can kind of tell in a good way that something wasn't right. In other words, like something that ain't supposed to happen today is you watching it happen.
Oh, that fumble.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But not to jump in front of you. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you got it.
No, I'm just that. When we jumped up 6-0, mm-hmm. and then because, all right, for people who don't know, when a D2 school is playing a D1 school, mm-hmm. that score is supposed to be jumping, and it's not supposed to be in your favor.
No. Mm-hmm.
But when I saw that
mm-hmm.
and that didn't happen,
mm-hmm. well, it kind of went tit for tat. But that's the thing. It's not supposed to be a contest.
Right, it's not supposed to be a contest, that's what I'm saying.
And going into halftime with the league, I was like, hey, man, y'all in trouble now.
That's it.
Because you just giving them enough to believe I can. It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to say. It's another thing to be like, hey, I'm going to try my best. Hey, I'm just honored. I'm just happy to be here. Hey, man. We finna beat these motherfuckers. You understand what I'm saying? And it's different.
Because just how you looked at me right there, mm-hmm. that's exactly how you look at me like, hey, we finna beat.
Right. And so.
And you can see it on the player's face when they was walking off the field.
Absolutely. And a number of things kind of transpired. We can go into some of that, but I ain't mean to jump in front of you.
No. You good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just excited, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But you had a lot of things that happened that as somebody that's a student of the game, I saw it. And I was like, man, it's going to be hard to overcome, even with a talent gap. Like, you can't turn the ball over and it produce points. Mm-hmm. You're in trouble. Mm-hmm. You can't do it twice. Keys to that victory in a lot of ways, is Tennessee State turning the ball over twice. And it produced 6 points each time, a fumble recovery and a pick six. I mean, it's hard to overcome that, especially when the defense is keeping you out of the end zone.
Right.
We had, number one, shout out to head coach Byron Brown. He did an excellent job. We'll come back to that in a minute. But I also wanted to give a couple shout outs. Shreveport, Louisiana native Ike Brown, number 24 for anybody that was there, running back. He had an excellent game.
Beast.
16 carries for 63 yards and a touchdown. He also caught 4 passes for 74 yards. You understand what I'm saying? Just an excellent performance. Another shout out to a guy who I think is a professional player, a future professional football player. He has the physical stature of one and the motor of one. He never stops, and that's Andrew Farmer, native of Jacksonville, Florida. He set that edge no matter whether they put him on the strong side, weak side, and they had to move him around sometimes because of the size deficit we had, and he was one of the bigger kids that we got. But the pressure that he was able to put on a quarterback who was in a backup role for Tennessee State, and just sitting at the edge and not letting nothing around him, man, he balled out. I didn't have a picture, but I also wanted to mention Tariq McKenzie, a quarterback for anyone who was there, jersey number 4.
Yeah.
He went 15 of 26 for 173 yards, and he threw a touchdown. He's a native of Javina, Florida. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. But those 3 in particular, and a host of others who I'm just not naming, played above and beyond the expectation. And like I said, when the ball got rolling, it was hard to fight, even though we tried our best to give it away. Like I said, shout out to Coach Byron Brown. Great job. But I don't know if those were the decisions of the offense coordinator or whatnot. But these folks just got a penalty and 10 seconds run off because they calling timeouts that they don't even have. Now, that's something that...
Dude, I saw that.
Hey, man, something ain't right with it. I ain't going to get into it because I love the brother and I wanted to be there, but, hey, it's one thing to be said for somebody that don't have no coaching experience. How you not know how many times? I don't care what the scoreboard say. If it ain't working, you got to keep up with that stuff.
Right.
But on our end, you got like a minute and 40 seconds or some change. Why are you throwing the ball? Just run the ball. Run the time. Man, that almost gave me a heart attack. And you got to punt it, and they've been blocking your kicks all day. You give them the ball at midfield. They run a couple plays, kick a field goal, tie it up, and it go in overtime. But I also want to come back and say, hell of a call, man-sized coaching call to say, look, we got it in overtime. Tennessee State has scored. They've kicked an extra point. We get in the end zone. And to have the heart to say, look, man, ain't no need of us going out here and kicking an extra point. They've been blocking our kicks all day. The size just too much of a difference to keep them out of there. And our kid kicked the ball so low that it's easily blocked at this level. If it wasn't blocked at the D2, they're just too big.
Right. So
he says, ain't no need, even if he make it, you ain't going to win a shootout with them because every time they score and kick an extra point, you score, you not kicking. Odds are you ain't going to make it. So we're going to win it or we're going to lose it right now.
Go out on your shield, man.
Go out there and do it. And not only did they score once, they scored twice.
Right.
Now, I don't know. It might be me. I might not understand. But I thought if a player, it may just be a pro rule. If a player jumps in the neutral zone and you snap it at that second.
That's a free play.
It's a free play. But nevertheless, they tried to explain to me that now it was a before, what do you call it?
Well, they said,
dead ball
they
foul.
said it was dead ball. They said they heard the whistle before, but that's not.
Well, here's my thing. That's if you make contact.
Right.
If a defensive player can jump in the neutral zone and get back if the ball ain't snapped. So it should have been a free play. It wasn't. They took it away, and I'll be doggone, show the beautiful bean footage of us of us getting in there. after it was taken away from us the first time, he just did the same thing again. And shout out to him for having the courage to say, "Hey man, we're gonna win it or lose it right here." So that's how my weekend went, and proud of my alma mater, proud of them old Dragons. I think besides the defeat of North Carolina A&T, Texas Southern and Mississippi Valley in that 95 year, that's probably the biggest victory we've had in well over 20 years. So not to bore the general public any longer with that if you didn't enjoy that kind of football or sports talk. But, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was great, man. And like I said before, man, when they punched it on in, man, I got a little sentimental, man.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I got a little sentimental, man. That was just a beautiful thing.
Yes, sir.
Man, what are we talking about today?
Well, I'm going to try to say some things about a brother who a lot of people may not have heard, and certainly they wouldn't have heard of. If they didn't hear about him, they didn't know about one of his descendants in particular. But we're going to talk about a prince named Abdul Rahman Ibrahim Sori. Absolutely. And the only photo that I have of him is the one you're about to put up to kind of give you an kind of an idea of what he looked like. Very important for a lot of reasons. We're going to discuss some of it. If you've heard anything about him, add anything to the chat that you feel that we may be leaving out. But to the average person who hadn't heard of him or have seen things about him and just never really looked into it, I thought it was one of the things that's fitting for this show is to talk about how the continent and the diaspora kind of merge together and creates one story, because no matter how you look at it, we are one people. And their story is our story is their story. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But go ahead, my brother.
So he was a prince?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So what? Tell me a little bit more about him then, because, I mean, you started out, where was he a prince at? I mean, where was he located at? Where's he from?
Well, before I go into him very deeply, let me just set some context. Most of us, when we think of slave populations in this country and their religious affiliations, we usually tie it to Christianity because that's what was kind of forced on us. Mm-hmm. Well, no kind of about it, but forced on us when we got here. We had our traditional religions that we brought here. Some were foreign to us, like I'm about to talk about, but we chose them before we got here. You know, before anybody else forced it, whatever religion on us. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I just wanted to point out to anybody who may not have known that 30% of the slaves that were brought here, or the enslaved persons that were captured and brought here, were of the Islamic faith. They were Muslims. It didn't always last past the first generation because many of them didn't make it. You know what I'm saying? The generation after them may have been sold off, or the generation previous didn't live long enough to pass it down to them. So you may not have known that your ancestors had a different religion before you got here. You understand? You just knew what was given to you. Before his capture in 1788, Prince Abdul Rahman was given control of the military where he was from his father, who, of course, was the king, right? Mm-hmm. And this military that he controlled was larger than all of the 13 original states, colonies. His military was, and the land that it encompassed was larger than the mass of the 13 original colonies, if that makes sense, which means that he controlled the military at the age of 26 that was larger than George Washington's. So you can imagine his thinking when he's captured and brought here and he got to serve these people. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Abdul Rahman was heavily educated to dispel some of the myths about the heathen, uneducated, ignorant, African slave brought here. Highly educated in law, physics, mathematics, science. In fact, he was sent off to the University of Timbuktu. Now, we can point at the University of Timbuktu as being one of the places or one of the institutions that set the format for today's university system. That's in Africa. I know you've heard of the term Timbuktu, and you thought it was make-believe. When they tell you, what do they say, from here to Timbuktu, you just thought they were talking. Right. That's an actual place that he had command over. And it had a university, the University of Timbuktu, that was world-renowned at the time. So this upsets a lot of stereotypes in terms of his religion, being a Muslim. He was a member of a royal family, legitimate prince. This totally puts a lot of the stereotypes that you would have about someone being ignorant, because he spoke like 7 or 8 languages, many of them European. You understand what I'm saying? But to go back to him specifically, he was born in Timbuktu in the year 1762. His father was named Ibrahim Sori, and he was the king. The son, Rahman, was sent to be educated. When he returns, he's made a prince of the king's court, which means he was a member of the personnel that was a part of advising the king on day-to-day activities. So you can kind of see why they sent him off to learn law, physics, and so on and so forth. He was made an emir of the military by his father, and that's when he commanded that giant military that encompassed the land larger than the original 13 colonies. By the way, if you are familiar with Islamic language, you know that the word emir is an actual name. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of the term admiral in the United States Navy, for example? Africans fighting on sea, called by many pirates, you understand what I'm saying, fought so valiantly. One of them in particular, whose name was Amir, was so admired by the United States Navy that they made his name into an official title for, a United States naval officer. So admiral actually comes from the word Amir, if that makes sense.
That guy's name.
Yeah. So this is a brilliant brother, and we're going to talk about his life a little bit. But he was from West Africa, where many of us are from, so it should tie home a little bit. Highly educated, member of a royal house, royal blood running through his veins, and it did not stop him from suffering the same fate as we did. Now, a lot of people who may know about the story will ignorantly say that this is an example of Africans selling Africans into slavery. And the reason why they would say that is because Prince Rahman, Abdul Rahman, had been given the task to go to war, go to battle with a neighboring tribe, right? And he does so. He gets defeated. When he gets defeated, and many of his soldiers from his military, they are captured and sold to people who would later introduce them to the transatlantic slave trade. In other words, sell them here, right? Mm-hmm. So what happens is you'll have people saying that, hey, that they helped sell Africans into slavery, right? I just told you the context or the nuance of this story. These were two tribes going to war with each other, whether it was over territory, food, water, whatever it was. They were literally locked in battle. So when you can capture an enemy or you can kill them, but usually you want them as far away from you as possible, right? So if there were people who will say, "Hey man, I'll buy them. You can make some money too. You sell your mortal enemy away." You know what I'm saying? That's what happened. They did not know what the European that they sold them to was going to do with them. They didn't know where they was going, and to be honest with you, I don't feel that it may have changed anything if they did, because these are the people that you locked in literal combat about the welfare of your family. You see what I'm saying? Shouldn't be that way. That ain't a black thing. That's a human condition thing. Go study Europe. Their whole history has been in bloodshed, war, and battle, fighting over territory and land and who's the rightful king or queen. You see what I'm saying? That's a human thing. Don't make it a black-on-black thing, if that makes sense. Right. But that's some of the context of Prince Abdul Rahman Ibrahima Sori. Go ahead. You had any more questions about him before we go a little further? Had you ever heard of him?
No, I haven't heard of him, man. But you did say something about him being slavery, right?
Right. He was actually captured by the warring tribe that they were fighting against.
How was he captured?
In battle by the people he was fighting.
So they lost.
They lost that battle. The other tribe captured him. And later, those that were captured were sold to Europeans. We don't care what they was doing with them. If we let them go, they're going to just keep on fighting us. You see what I'm saying? They were just getting rid of them, as opposed to killing them. And sometimes they would enslave them themselves, but it wasn't a chattel slavery. It was like, hey, man, 6 or 7 years out of hard work, you could be a part of our family. You could marry into the family. It was just a different mindset. It was not the European form of chattel slavery that you think of. And they had no clue of what was going to befall them once they were given away. You understand what I'm saying? So you cannot use your mindset today on the way people operated and thought hundreds of years ago. It just doesn't work. But he's ended up being brought to the shores of the United States and taken to Washington, Mississippi, of all places. And on the ship, he was able to use his cunning to go from the bottom level of the ship, where it's the most horrible, to the top. And he started by telling the enslavers that he was a prince, and you captured a prince, and by law, this can't happen, which was true. But do you think they believed he was a prince? Absolutely not. The more he talked to them, and he showed them how many languages he knew, how smart he was, they would eventually let him eat at the table with them on the ship. That's how much respect they had for him. One of the guys on the ship said, as soon as we get back, I'm going to tell them to let you go and bring you right back. Once they got off the boat, he lost control of what would happen to him. So that never happened. He was actually sold into slavery in Washington, Mississippi. Because of where he was from, he was a strand of a tribe called the Fulani, and they had some experience in cotton, and he was put on a farm. Because of his brilliance, he was left in charge of the cotton production.
He took a big chance doing that, man, because if they found out that he was as educated as he was, I'm surprised he didn't just throw him overboard.
Well, the thing was, I hate to put it like this, but I mean, what was the other option?
I mean, yeah, I get that.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And also, he was right in a sense that they're as brutal, as evil as the system of slavery is. There were some rules to it, and he should have been exempt from capture because of who he was. Right. But they didn't honor the men on the ship. One of them, at least a Cox, acknowledged that fact and tried to work to get him out. He just lost control, lost contact, and it never happened. He would spend the next 40 years of his life being a slave in Mississippi.
How was his life as a slave? I know it was harsh because there's nothing good about being a slave.
Right.
So I know it was harsh, especially from him coming from where he was to this drastic change in his life. I mean, that's just
sure.
It's terrible.
He arrives at the age of 26, 27. He would spend the next 40 years of his life there.
26. So that means when he was 60 something when he
67. So what ends up happening is as you have mentioned, there's no way to sugarcoat slavery. It's evil on all accounts.
Yes.
Even with that being said, he may have had a better experience than most. Not because they believed him, because he told everybody who would listen who he was, right? And by the time you get to that level in Mississippi, they wouldn't have gave a damn if even if they believed it. Mm-hmm. But because of his smarts, his education, he usually was put in a supervisory role. You understand what I'm saying? Keep in mind he's leaving a family and having to start all over. So he marries a young lady named Isabella, and they get married in the year 1794. Also, I don't know if I mentioned it, he was captured in 1788. Mm-hmm. He has many children. One of the examples of his cunning, all within this 40-year span of time that he's on this plantation, right? Mm-hmm. He spends his time trying to fight the fact that he shouldn't be here with a pencil and with books, not with like trying to run away or fight. He writes. Secretary of State Henry Clay, I believe he was the 9th Secretary of the United States, Secretary of State. He writes to President John Quincy Adams. This goes back and forth, and they're paying quite a bit of attention to his claims, because if it's right, it's going to break this treaty I'm finna tell you about. So it was legitimate. But they had to first figure it out. To the chagrin of his owner, the United States government would send officials down to this plantation to check him out. They were like, if you are who you say you are, you should have Fulani features. The reason I put his picture up there is because those are the features of a Fulani member of that tribe, right? Mm. Now, I wanted to tell some people this. If you look at that picture, right, you're not looking at an African American. You're looking at a full-blooded native African, right? Now, does he fit your stereotypical view of what they usually push to you as what an African would look like, right?
No.
He looks like what? An African American, right? Mm-hmm. You cut his hair, that's Barack Obama, that's me, that's you, right? This is why do you think we look like this? Because we come from West Africa, where he come from. You understand what I'm saying? So they sent people down. They would argue that his features look Fulani. They could not argue with it. It did. Man, you could cut his hair off, and that's you. You understand what I'm saying? So once they got the physical dimensions of his phenotype, as barbaric as that may sound, that was one of the ways they could prove, okay, he's from the ethnic strand that he's supposed to be from. Then they check his background. And in doing so, some officials in Morocco find out, because he makes a claim of being a Moor. Moor just means black, and it also can mean noble. So they get real involved. They write to Secretary of State Henry Clay. They write to President John Quincy Adams, and they demand from Morocco, release him immediately. It takes a long amount of time. He never gives up. He never stops his correspondence. That's why education is so important, because as long as he could find somewhere to hide, he could pick up a pen and some paper, he was writing these people. You understand what I'm saying? He didn't have to get somebody to do it for him or just sit silent. He did it, and he fought this like using every ounce of that legal education that he had, right? Mm-hmm. Well, when he writes to the president, he argues to John Quincy Adams about several articles of a Moorish treaty that the United States had with the Moroccan king. And this treaty was written in 1826. He argued on the grounds of the right, number 2, number 6, Article 16, Article 20. That's Article 2, Article 6, Article 16, and Article 20 that said that after this treaty was signed between the two countries, even though slavery was going on, any Moor or noble or member of a royal house captured in this evil thing you got going on called chattel slavery, they are to be released immediately. And even if they find their way over here through all the confusion, they should be released and sent back. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. This was done, and eventually after 40 years, it comes to fruition. So once it comes to fruition, he faces another dilemma. And that dilemma is they recognize him. They do not recognize the family that he has created since he's been here. You understand what I'm saying? So he's able to return. Keep in mind, he's been playing like a Christian the whole time, but he's been a Muslim. And you can tell by the names of his children, his spouse, they had names that they used that the master wasn't aware of. And the second he got back to the continent, he went right back to practicing his form of Islam and praying to the East, so on and so forth. When he returns to the continent, he returns to Liberia, Monrovia, Liberia, which has an interesting history in and of itself. We talked a little bit about it in the past, but Liberia is a country in Africa where, long story short, when Abraham Lincoln, quote unquote, freed us, not that we freed ourselves through fighting for 400 years, but when he freed us, he carved out a niche of the continent to send us back because he didn't feel we could be able to coexist with our white counterparts and enjoy freedom. You understand what I'm saying? So there are places in Liberia that are called Mississippi, that are literally called Kentucky, Tennessee. Why do you think that is? Because when we were freed, we were sent back over there because they did not want us here. Did you know that place existed?
No.
They have an interesting history with Firestone. Rubber trees come from this region.
You talked about that in the previous, yeah.
And their president, who was educated here at HBCUs, fought him on it. He was one of the few that wasn't in bed that fought him, and he constantly stayed in trouble. Charles Taylor, no matter what you think about him, personally, you cannot deny his fortitude in terms of fighting him, saying, hey, man, these are our trees. If it's going to be some Firestone, we going to do it. You know what I'm saying? But it ultimately gets him in trouble. But this is where he's returned, not to his homeland, but to Liberia. It's in West Africa also, but he's from Timbuktu or Morocco, you know what I'm saying, where his lineage goes all the way back to. But when he gets there, he's immediately infected with a disease like yellow fever or something, I can't exactly remember, but he dies. So he dies before he's able to do what he planned on doing. That was to fight for his family that he had created since he had been a slave in Mississippi, to bring them back. So he never got to bring them back. He never got to see them again.
Did he ever get to see his original family?
Some of the members were still alive in here, but you got to keep in mind, he was 26 when he left, and he's 67 now. A lot of them wasn't there.
Right.
But that house, that royal house, is still there. You understand what I'm saying? Which brings us to somebody I want to speak on real briefly, in case you haven't heard of this prince. Certainly you haven't heard of this person. I just think it's a victory story that I wanted to share. I wanted to mention a young lady, and I'm going to ask you, can you guess, in your wildest guess, who you think this is? I want to talk about a young lady named Karen. I'm going to give you her full name in a minute, but if you can put up one of the pictures I sent.
Is this her right here?
Absolutely. I'm just going to ask you, just look at her face. The painting that you just put up when we was talking about the prince, right? Mm-hmm. Look at her features. Does that remind you of the picture that we just put up?
Yeah.
Do you know who she is? She's the great, 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 great granddaughter of Prince Abdul Rahman. Now, in Mississippi right now, they refer to her as Her Royal Highness, Princess Karen of the House of Sori. And guess who recognizes her as such?
Oh.
The United Nations. So this ain't a joke. You see what I'm saying? She chooses to stay where she is because that's all she knows. You understand what I'm saying? Still practices the faith. Is a guest in many royal houses around the world, namely the continent of Africa. Is invited to speak at the United Nations often. And she has a nonprofit that helps children who aren't getting enough to eat, don't have money for school supplies. She tries her best to support them. Now, she doesn't have bodyguards like the queen that just died. She don't have limousines and Rolls Royces, but she's just as royal. You understand what I'm saying? So I want you, as a piece of homework, to go look up the prince that we've just talked about, Abdul Rahman Sori, but also look up his descendant who is still holding on to that tradition that should be held on because her great-great-great-grandfather's blood is in her veins. She's just as royal. You understand what I'm saying? And she's recognized in Natchez, Mississippi as a princess to this day. Just thought that was something that I wanted to put on the viewers' ears this week, and go check her out.
So she's recognized as a princess.
Right now.
Right now. Well, hold on. So, but she's in Mississippi, right?
Right. But see, she's a part of that family that he couldn't bring back.
Got you.
You see what I'm saying? A descendant of those people. Absolutely. But she's recognized as Her Royal Highness Princess Karen of the House of Sori. And back on the continent, they recognize her as being a part of that royal family as well. Just check those people out. That story is a story of convergence of the continent with the diaspora. And although it's from a despicable episode in our history called slavery, you can clearly see that when you look in the mirror, you're looking at your ancestors. You understand what I'm saying? So, and they know more about you than you do. That's why they wanted to check those phenotypes to see if he was who he said he was. But anyway, any more questions? You got anything else, my brother, before we get out of here?
No, that's pretty much it, man. That's definitely interesting. I would like to do more, research on that. I wonder if there's a way we can reach out to her.
Oh, absolutely. I would do that, and hopefully we'll come back with a surprise.
I think she would definitely be somebody I would
great
love to
guest.
talk. Yeah.
Say no more. And that's in the works. That's in the plans. And congratulations to Lane College, all the Lane College family. Dragon Nation, great weekend. Great weekend.
Definitely
epic weekend.
Great. Hey, like I said before, man, every week on this show with you, man, is a great week, man. So.
Oh man, I appreciate it. Likewise. Until next week, in the words of the great Harriet Tubman, we out.